Hello. So something happened yesterday that I feel compelled to share only because I think it's a really good example of how different thoughts, beliefs, conditioning can pop up in real life, right? In our day to day. So I'm hoping that this resonates and maybe sparks something for you, in your journey. So a little bit of context. I had ordered my son a new pair of shoes, and we just got them. He's 5. He's 5 and he's a boy, so he's either growing out of the shoes or he's completely destroying them. So we go through a lot of shoes in our house. And the ones that I was unboxing yesterday, I just was kind of taken aback by how perfect they were. When I pulled them out of the box, they were just like fresh and clean and just, pristine. And seeing them brought back a memory of my own from when I was younger, um, probably around second grade ish. And we were doing one of those school musical programs, right? Like when you get together in the gym for all the parents, there's the singing and the dancing and whatnot. And, so as you probably remember, like that's a big event when you're a kiddo, right? Like it's a big deal. And my mom had bought me a new pair of shoes for it. And they were powder blue with these bright white accents. And I loved them. Like I thought they were just the most gorgeous shoes I'd ever seen. I was so proud of them. And I just remember thinking like I was gonna rock that performance. Right? And the day of the big event, an older girl looked at me and she said, "Nice shoes." And, I was kind of, I don't know, like, I didn't really know what was happening, right? Because, like, it sounded like a compliment, like she said nice. That seems like that was a kind thing to say, but the tone wasn't nice. And so I just was confused by that. And I mean, obviously, I was so young. I didn't really understand sarcasm yet. I just knew that what she had said, how she had said it, didn't match. And I also didn't really know what to do with all of that. So I, like carried on like any, little second grader would. At some point later, I don't know, 2 days later, 2 weeks later, not quite sure of the timing, but I remember overhearing and witnessing another kiddo tease a boy and referring to his clothes as Kmart fall apart. And that's where my shoes had come from. Like my mom had got them at Kmart. And so in that moment, my brain connected those two events, like just instantly. Right. And I don't know if I had told that one girl that made the comment where my shoes came from, or if she just recognized them, or I don't know. But I made the connection either way. Whether they were connected or not, my brain made the connection that she had been making fun of me. If Kmart was cheap, that means the shoes were cheap, and then somehow that meant that I was cheap too, right? That was the connection that I made. And I just remember feeling this flood of shame come over me. And it's interesting to look back on that now as an adult because those were the exact same shoes that I had loved, right? That had given me joy. But now the story had changed. And because I didn't know any better, I let that story undo that whole experience for me. So as an adult, like look at it just makes me so sad for my little girl self, right? So sad thinking that she was so happy and then how quickly that happiness turned into shame. And that's how conditioning can happen. I know sometimes we think of conditioning as these really big events, maybe sometimes traumatic or things that happen just very like the repetition of it and whatnot. But I think sometimes the conditioning can happen in like these small interactions like this, right? Like a tone or a comment. Those can have a very lasting impact. And, now, fast forward, like I have a son, I mentioned, he's 5 and he's gonna be starting kindergarten in the fall. And in fact, even already, like this summer at camp, he's starting to spend more time around other children and older children, like more sophisticated children, right? And so, like, I know there will be moments that I can't protect him from, right? Like, someone will sooner or later say something unkind. I mean, if it hasn't happened already, or he'll misunderstand a situation or feel left out. And so, of course, I think about these things, and part of me wants to try to, yeah, you just want to like put a little bubble around him and like prevent all of that from happening, right? Keep him in that like fresh out of the box kind of version of life before anyone has a chance to, tell him that anything is wrong with him, or that, what he's wearing is weird, or, whatever it may be. But I can't do that. And ultimately I know that that's not my job or my role, as a mom. My role is to protect him where I can. Yes, or I like step in when I need to. But I also have to accept that I'm not going to be able to prevent every experience that's going to shape him. Right? I can't control all those experiences. I can't control what he makes of those experiences, like the stories that he makes up, whether they're true or not, like the story that I made, like what. And all of that can feel kind of overwhelming, and feel very, I don't know, make me feel very vulnerable to admit that, as a mother. We were taught that, good mothers, they protect their children. And, of course we try, we do the best we can, but protection doesn't necessarily mean controlling every part of their path, right? Like, at some point I have to just trust that his path belongs to him, and that even though he may have experiences that I would never choose for him, it's possible that those particular experiences are the things that he needs, right? That deepen him or help him connect with his higher self, help him remember who he is. So, the more I'm in this work, the more I'm seeing that, like, my role as a mom isn't to make sure that he never feels pain, that he never gets hurt. It's to be his safe place when that does happen, right? Where he can bring that hurt, that the shame or the confusion or whatever it is, to me, and together, we can sort through it. And at least that's my hope. My hope is that I can be that role for him. I hope that I can help him see that someone else's words or tone don't define him, or like when someone teases him, that just because they said it out loud doesn't make it true. And so I know intellectually that I can't stop all of that conditioning from happening, right? None of us can. And that's a tough lesson. Such a tough lesson. But that doesn't mean that we're completely helpless, right? I do feel like there are places where we have some agency, and so like looking for those places is, at least for me, is helpful. Like, what can I do to help support the people that I love? And one of those things could be helping them recognize their conditioning and question it, and maybe even learn to do that for myself, at deeper and deeper levels, which is why, I think about these things when these memories come up, right? To go back to these places where joy became shame, right? And ask myself, like, what really happened there? Like, and what's really true? Like, what is really true about that? Or what did I assign? What story did I assign to that situation? But for years, whenever I thought about those shoes, I remembered the shame. But that wasn't the only thing that happened with those shoes. I loved them. I I felt really proud of them. And that joy was real. That joy was primary. That's what happened first. So now when I go back to that memory, I don't have to let the shame be the part that defines it. I don't have to pretend the shame didn't happen either, but I can just like more intentionally remember the joy, right? And I can make that what I remember most. So I think ultimately that's the lesson that I've untangled here, is that we can intentionally look at those parts of ourselves, those memories that brought, in my case, in this example, shame, and ask ourselves, like, is there a different and deeper and truer way of remembering that story? So, if this brought up a memory of your own, I'd love to hear about it. Tell me about it in the comments. Maybe there's a moment that you've remembered, right? Through this lens of shame, or through another lens that kind of has distorted it. And maybe there's a way of looking at it differently, looking at it, like I said, in a deeper and truer way. So this is the kind of thing that we explore here inside this Substack. Questioning our beliefs, essentially, so that we can clear all that stuff out and get it out of the way, so that we can intentionally create, right, the life that we desire. So if you're not already subscribed, come inside. Hope to see you there. And until next time, bye bye.